Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Scoutcast from Fantasy Football Scout. My name is Andy.
My name is Joe.
And my name is Seb.
Now, you will have noticed that, yes, of course, Joe is my little assistant for another week. Joe, you must have loved it so much last week, you agreed to do it again this week.
I did. I'm still awaiting my new computer. It is actually made, but I need to do some complicated, boring things. So basically, it's not ready yet. Andy, you're button pressing duty.
Yes, I am, and we shall say as well. My my internet is becoming a little bit infamous in the community at the moment. So if it drops again, do stay on. It will come back eventually. I do apologise already because it's going to happen at some point. So there you go. But Joe, I am starting to believe. I'm not so sure whether I believe you do have a laptop problem now. I just think you like being a submissive one in our relationship now, don't you?
It's like holiday.
Yeah.
Look at me not pressing buttons.
And we better say hello to Seb as well because he's the third wheel, isn't he? Hello, Seb.
Hi, I feel included. Yay.
Yay. But we should say as well, welcome back to everybody, because obviously it's been really weird, this international break. To me, it actually felt a little bit more like the season had finished. It felt like a really weird stop. And obviously now we're back to it. And it's taken me a couple of days to get back used to it. Seb, I don't know whether you feel the same.
I so badly wanted to go. Well, Joe's season is finished. And then nah, he'll get top 100k again. I know what you mean. Like, it felt like forever, and I'm wholly underprepared for the rest of the season. But we'll make it up as we go along.
Yeah, exactly. And Joe, you looking forward to the run-in?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it ending, to be honest. Actually, do you know what? I've got a little target. I want to get 90k finish, because that's what I've got the last two seasons. I can be officially the 90k man.
If you don't get 100k, so the year I'm on Scoutcast and you finally don't get 100k, you won't invite me back.
As we will discuss tonight, I'm at a crossroads here, in the various moves I make from here on in. I'm either going to be top 10k or 500,000, or if I just carry on in my current large trajectory, I'm going to hover around top 100k. So I might just miss out, might just get it.
Oh, I believe in you, mate. You'll be blazing your squad all the way there, mate.
Blazing squad.
Crossroads.
How are you playing it? Like, are you just sort of looking to creep into that top 100k, which like is easy from 117? You could be quite defensive, as it were. Or are you thinking, I'll go for it, and if I end up 500k, whatever?
This season, I'm going to go for top 100k. Because I think the last record I've got left really is I think it's me and a couple of other people who've been doing it for like more than a decade and have never finished out the top 100k, and that's still a thing. And once I finish outside of that, then you're going to see the new Joe.
Then you can finally win it, mate. Then you can go for number one.
I'm either going for 1 or million. And I don't care about anything in between.
I'd love to document that next year if that happens. So, Joe, we've got on a little bit of a tangent there, but it's nice we haven't seen each other for a couple of weeks, have we? So tell us what is going on Scoutcast tonight.
Yes, indeed. Well, we're going to have a quick recap of Game Week 30. And this is where the free hitters definitely prospered, which wasn't any of us, I don't think. We'll look at the fixtures and how we'll use our remaining chips, and Seb's going to take us through the various permutations with the chips and the strategies we should be adopting, and we ought to be thinking about that now. Every single move we make is based on what strategy we use. It's a double, but it's Burnley and Everton, so it's not really a double at all. We'll assess the best assets from those teams, and I put that in the notes, and there were literally no questions on them, and the only questions were on Andy's DIY skills, because I understand you've been doing some decking in your garden, and so that's how boring Burnley and Everton are, because people prefer to talk about your decking.
It's quite exciting, my decking, actually.
There we go.
Yeah, I have fun on my deck.
There we go. It's double and blank game week 33 looks better. So I'm going to talk a lot about them, and I've got some tables for that. So we'll assess the players to target, whatever chips you're using. We'll look at our latest from our community squad. And you've already done the blazing squad gag, so I'm not going to say that it's blazing a trail of glory there. So more questions, quickfire questions, and we'll be these are at the end. So yeah, canvassing questions from the live chatters.
Lovely stuff. And we ought to mention the live chat as we got in tonight as well. Got over 100 people in the chat already. Steve Elbows, Bernardo Santos, FPL Rank Chaser, Simon Garner, Footballman 10, Denver. Who else we got? Sean Govier, Geo Boys. Got loads of people in the chat. Dan FPL Way. Evening. And make sure you do like the stream as well, because it really helps us moving forward. So let's have a look. So we're going to have a look at my points first. I had an absolutely shocking week. Absolutely shocking. I only had 5 play. And Joe, obviously, you can feel sympathy my way as well. I had Ramsdale not start because he was ill. I had Martinelli not start because he was ill as well. And I had Rafinha not start because he was ill too. And I only went in with 8. I even rolled my transfer. And so I've now got 2 free transfers, but I only have 5 play. I managed to get 42 points, of which Kane and Saka got 37 of them. So yeah, not a good week, unfortunately. I won't lie, I didn't have Jimenez, which was obviously great because a lot of people had him. Some people even captained him. So yeah, 42 points, and I went down to 35k from about 26. So a 9k red arrow is not bad when only 5 people play, and I've rolled a free transfer. So could have been better, could have been a lot worse. I genuinely thought I'd finish about 50k at the end of the week. So there you go. We've got Seb's next, I believe. And Seb, you kind of showed us all how to do it this week, mate.
I mean, I captained a good player. That was about it, really. It was like more than half my score. I got 51. I didn't free hit. I mean, people who free hit are the ones that showed us how to do it. I also had Jimenez on a -2 with Lacazette up front. Kulusevski, Rafinha, who, as you say, didn't play, and my bench was non-existent. Saka vice captain, Son captain. That is where all of my points came from. And then Doherty, Luka Dean, who did not play, Kieran Tierney, who did get 6 actually nicely, and then Dubravka, who didn't play, and Foster didn't play either. I was happy just to not have a goalkeeper and hold those 2 going forward because that was part of the strategy. I also have 2 free transfers because I probably was going to use it, ended up being indecisive, then ended up sort of not being around for the deadline and thought, well, I'll just stick. I don't know what I'm going to do, so I won't do anything. I probably would have moved Luka Dean on, not sure who for. And honestly, I'm quite pleased I've got 2 transfers now. And that saw me drop a few hundred places, still just under 6k or so. So I think very much clinging on with 51 or so, which is crazy because it's like, what, 10 points, 9 points more than you, and not really much change for me. And you dropped 9k places, which shows how tight it was, right? Unless you free hit, we all just did a bit rubbish.
Yeah, cheers for mentioning that, mate. And
I meant that kindly.
I know you did, of course. And Joe, let's have a look at yours because you are following a very similar trend to what I did last week.
Yes. Yeah. So this got me from just inside the top 100k to just outside. So I've been hovering around there. I went into this with 8 players, and I thought, oh, that'll do me. Except 3 of those players were Ramsdale, Kilman, and Rafinha, who didn't play. So that was a great Friday night game. So I knew, so pretty much everyone blanked. All the points came. Kane's 26 captaincy, so at least got that right. Saka got me 11 as well, and the rest were just blanks, sporadic little moves. I noticed one move that was quite popular was a lot of people using the opportunity to remove Son and get Kane in and sort of restructure a bit. And that sort of was a sort of a grey arrow move, just 4 points in that. So if you did that, you missed out on Son's great home record. So that's the thing about Son. He's great at home and he's got lots of really good home games coming up still. But Kane is your man for all seasons. He's got a great away record, great home record. And, who do we have up front? Everyone hates strikers, so keep talking about it. And I've got 3 strikers, I think, 2.5 strikers if Brozier ever turns up. But I like Che Adams, and he's not in many teams, so he's my differential. As in exactly the same point last season, I had Chris Wood in that role, and that propelled me into the top 100k. So I'm hoping Che Adams can do the same.
Chris Wood. I'm waiting for a week where we don't mention Chris Wood.
No, never,
Every week he's kind of relevant.
No, that week does not exist.
No. So we're going to swiftly move on from last week because I think some people did do very well. The free hitters actually did have a good week, especially when you tripled up on say, Son and Kane, and you had those Arsenal boys as well that did play. And most of them, it's when you had those reserves, when those subs came in and did very well for you. So a lot of us obviously only had 8 players, and it was actually the fact we didn't have those reserve players to bring in, which is what made the difference. So moving forward then, Seb, you are going to talk us through a discussion about fixture frisking, which is easy for me to say, forward planning and chips. The community questions we had were from Ruin and Lust said, which teams still have games to be rescheduled? And Caveat King said, best time to wildcard, is it 31 or 34? So I've got the season ticker up on the screen, and you could just talk us through a little bit about what you would be doing moving forward and kind of the information we know at the moment.
Sure. So we'll start with the season ticker that's on screen. And I will cover something else in a moment. This is only the confirmed fixtures at the moment. So obviously our first question there talking about who still has matches to be rescheduled. We'll cover that in a second. This also, I believe, is ordered by quality of those fixtures in the remaining matches. Would that be right, Andy? So we have Burnley at the top, partly because of the number of fixtures they have rather than necessarily their own quality. Although there's some decent ones in there, and despite thinking we should all avoid Everton and Burnley, I'm going to end up with the Burnley players.
I was just going to say, with the season ticker, the way it's structured is it's a pure fixtures thing, but it does get tweaked every now and again. The little colour scheme there, we do tweak in terms of things like form, but of course form, is a very much a long-term thing, really. And so what we don't do is suddenly, after 3 games, the team loses. They're suddenly awful, and then suddenly they get form again. But yeah, looking at fixtures, Burnley just have more. They've just got so many fixtures.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's classic conversation there between quantity and quality. But to answer the question in a little more detail, and I guess this is what we want to dive into, so I'll run us through this and then would love to have a chat about it. Lego Mane on Twitter, which I've retweeted, and I'll stick it under the comments for this podcast as well, I think, so that people can look at it. They have made some predictions of what's to come. So there's the confirmed fixtures in there, of course, but also where the fixtures that are remaining might slot in. So it's important to remember this is a prediction, but it is from someone who knows what they're talking about. So there's a good chance this is mostly accurate. I'll run it through team by team, but there's a lot of teams. So please shout at me if you want to jump in. So Man City to start with, they have West Ham to rearrange, and that is likely to go into 36 or 37. 36 would be our preference, because as we may cover later, that's when a lot of other doubles are likely to happen. 37 would be an issue. And I believe that depends on some European outcomes, and there's also the FA Cup final to rearrange in there as well, if obviously they qualify for that. We then have Man United, who have a double in 33, and I believe that is it. And we'll talk a little bit later about whether we should get maybe Man United players. Personally, I'm not that excited unless I'm free hitting. What do you two think?
Well, I haven't a free hit left. And if I did, and I was looking to use it in game week 33, I think free hitters wanting to get Ronaldo in are going to have to go without Kane. Or if you have both, you're going to cut some serious corners. And one of those corners is Kane. So, I mean, why would you remove Kane against Brighton at home in game week 33 for Ronaldo, who's got Liverpool and Norwich? So it's basically, so that's the decision there. So
yeah, see, I'm torn. I quite like United moving forward. And it's because they've got no other commitments. They've got nothing else to play in. And they've got Leicester at home, Everton away, then they've got Norwich in their double. I know Liverpool's the other game, but Norwich they could get, give a spanking. And then so that's 4 games in 3 weeks where you can trust, I would think, that Bruno, Ronaldo, and Sancho, who for me are the only 3 you should really be touching in their attack, are most likely going to play every game there. And the big thing is, like Joe's just said, who do you get rid of though? Because I don't really know who you can get rid of in your team to, actually accommodate those players. So I actually think Man United could surprise us in the next three game weeks, but it's a big gamble to get rid of somebody and to make sure you free up those funds for some of them. So Sancho's probably the most easiest person to get to, but it's tough for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you're free hitting, maybe you can afford one of the more expensive ones. If you've just got transfers, I think it kind of has to be Sancho or no one.
Yeah.
One thing I'd love to, a part statement, part question for you, Andy, is we mentioned they haven't got any other commitments at the moment. But that double does come on, I believe, they've got Saturday, the 16th of April at 3 p.m. is Norwich at home. That's the fixture you want.
Yeah.
Liverpool away is then Tuesday, the 19th at 8 p.m. So not a massive gap in between that. And then they have the early kickoff the following Saturday against Arsenal.
Mhm.
So while it's the Norwich fixture we really want to prioritise, and that does come after 7-day rest, is there a scenario where, say, you're free hitting Ronaldo and he sits out in preparation for Liverpool?
Could be. I'd be very, very surprised if Ronaldo misses out in many games now until the end of the season, personally. I think I could understand him missing games for the Champions League because for us, we were almost prioritising that a little bit more at times. But I would be very surprised. I still think Bruno's probably a little bit of a better asset because he's more likely to play because he's just a machine in terms of fitness. But Ronaldo, like I said, I'd be very surprised. The worry is that obviously you're thinking in your head, is he going to play every game? And if you're thinking about that for a player that's 12 million, like, is he really going to be in your team? And he shouldn't be, should he?
And that's the beauty of Kane. Harry Kane plays every minute.
Yeah.
He will not get rested. There's no, I've got a tough game coming up there. Will they rest him? No, that never happens. Kane will play every single minute until his legs fall off. And and it usually happens in about August. So his legs fall off in August, then they come back on again in September. And when you're comparing Kane to Ronaldo, or using Kane's money to fund Fernandes or even Sancho, it just doesn't compare, I don't think. So yeah, anyway, we'll talk about Game Week 33 in a bit more detail a bit later, but there's a pros and cons of using a free hit there. I'm not sure you want Manchester United going forward when there are so many other premium assets from other teams like Kane at Spurs and City and Chelsea. But at the same time, they could play against Norwich and he could score a hat-trick against Norwich. And if he's your captain and he gets just 2 points for turning up at Liverpool, you are absolutely laughing with a green arrow.
Yeah, I mean, is it fair to maybe describe that a bit like, I think, is it Everton who have got City in one of their doubles coming up? Mm-hmm. So you maybe just ignore that match. Is it fair to maybe say that Man United have Norwich at home? That's where you're getting your points. And it's not so much a double as like a 1.2 or something. Because you could get something against Liverpool. At least you'll get 2 points, hopefully. But realistically, it's that Norwich game.
Yeah. And I think if people are free hitting and they are tripling up on United in that game, it's the Norwich game you're looking at, because that Liverpool game, for me, Liverpool's still gunning for it as well. I don't think we're going to get much in that game, unfortunately.
And that theme about a poor double, we're going to come to in a bit with Burnley, because their Game 31 double is not really a double.
So allow me then to move on to another team who we all have, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and he may well be injured for one, maybe two matches, again, one of which is City. They have a double coming up in 36, it looks like, which will be Tottenham and Aston Villa. And that is it. They do have some nice fixtures after 34. Everton, Newcastle, that double, Southampton and Wolves. So the question for me here is, what are we doing with Trent Alexander-Arnold?
Go on, Joe. You go first.
This is what I was talking about at the beginning. Do I go for top 10K or top million, or do I just hover where I am around the top 100K and hope for the best? Because I could remove Alexander-Arnold for Cancelo, who is playing Burnley, which is basically 3 points, and not 3 points, lots of them. And Cancelo is a player I'd want going forward. And then eventually down the line, if I wanted to get Alexander-Arnold back, I have to make a choice there and remove another defender or another, move funds around. But that's sort of shifting the problem down the line. Or do I do what my instinct says, is keep Alexander-Arnold? I've only wildcarded fairly recently. My squad's fine, my bench is fine. I can just bench it. I can just bench him. I've got Brozier first sub. I'm probably going to get Ben White in, who's playing Crystal Palace. I mean, these are good subs to come in, so I might as well do that. So that's the decision I have. I'm the sort of manager who's going to keep him. Andy might be the kind of manager that gets rid of him. Mm-hmm. Nice segue.
So, I was even literally, before I came on tonight, went on my Instagram, did a little video, by the way, follow me on Instagram, was saying that actually I feel like we could sell Trent now. I feel like we could sell him now and just make sure you leave the door open and get him back in 34. So for me, I'm looking at it and thinking he's not going to play this week, most likely. Probably won't even be fit for Man City. And even if he is, it's Man City away. I am fully expecting Man City to score, and it's probably going to be a low-scoring game. Then he's got Man United in game week 33. If I were to free hit that week, I could free hit him into my team anyway. And then I could get him back in game week 34. Now, there's obviously massive dangers to this, and I will say as well, I do have Robertson, so that makes it feel like a safer move for me because Robertson's been putting up much better numbers than Trent recently anyway. It's just there are caveats to that, obviously, with the fact that I'm going to be losing 0.5 million getting rid of him, which does not feel good. But I feel like these are the kind of moves you can make at the end of the season, and it's not as bad as people think it is, if that makes sense. So, yeah, if I was selling, it would be either massively downgrading him, but then I'm worried about where the funds are going to go, or it's moving to someone like Cancelo, which is still downgrading, but it's Cancelo or James, someone that's got that high upside that can cover him, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you say the risk there. I guess it's capped to 5 weeks of risk as opposed to
Yeah.
25 weeks if you did it a few months ago.
Yeah.
For me,
this potentially not playing in some of those as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the thing for me though is to keep an eye on that price because, as you said, you might need to find 0.5 to get him back. If you're currently working with less than 0.5, whether that's in your actual bank at the moment or with your other planned moves, you could dig yourself into a little hole that you weren't aware of. And something to point out here, which, and just as an example, I think FPL Review or Live FPL may know more than this on me, so please go talk to them. But players don't rise and fall in the same way in price.
Mhm.
I believe one of them is based on actual transfers and one is based on percentage of ownership. I think it might be rises based on they need a certain number, which will be modified by various other algorithms as well. I don't think it's just linear. But to fall, they need to lose a certain percentage. And again, I don't think that's linear. By all means, go look into it more. But we've seen examples of someone, Trent, for example, rising 1 million, even though so many people already owned him, and he could lose half his ownership and he won't fall 1 million. So don't count on him falling, the 0.4, 0.5 you might need. You are going to need some funds to get him back, I think.
It is tempting as well. Like when you look at someone like Robertson, if you're looking at Liverpool's fixtures and the fact they could have that double later on, someone like Matip is putting up incredible numbers at the moment and obviously saving you money. If you wanted to, the thing I don't like about losing Trent is not having that third Liverpool player, if that makes sense. Even though they've got City, the Man United game, obviously they could do very well. And then they've got Everton, Newcastle. You'd want to get him back in 34. And if you don't, someone like Matip can also be somebody you could bring in. He's getting a few assists at the moment, getting bonus points. So that's not an awful move. I think a lot of people are doing Trent to Robertson, aren't they, if they don't have him, just like to like. Yeah. But I would want to get that third Liverpool player by game week 34. Yeah, I would need to have that third one.
Allow me to propose that doesn't have to be Trent, though, of course.
No, exactly.
I was going to say I've also got Robertson as well, and that is for those that own Alexander-Arnold and Robertson. As Andy was saying, it does make the decision slightly easier because you have got that Liverpool defensive coverage and you've got that Liverpool attacking coverage all in that one player as well. And you know that he's not going to play against Watford and game week 33. For me, he's just such a he's a player I'm going to want back, or I'm just going to not enjoy every game because I don't own him and he's on the pitch. And so for me, he just stays. I've got I've got Kilman in my side. Why do I want to get rid of Alexander-Arnold?
Mate, that Wolves spot has done me so much harm. So speaking of other defenders and someone you might lose Trent for, we have Chelsea, and Reece James is a player that really interests me, even though doesn't have the same doubles as others. They have a potential double of Wolves and Leicester in 36 and a potential other double of Everton and Leeds. Now, in what I'm working from here, which is from Legomani, that is down for game week 35, but I believe that relies on them losing to Madrid in Europe. So that isn't nailed by any means. It has to happen, but we aren't quite sure when. And it could be another one of those that if you're laying concrete plans now, a bit like we said with City, what you don't want is Chelsea and City ending up with their doubles in different weeks or something, because then you aren't going to optimize the chip or even transfers maybe that you're making. What do you two make of Chelsea going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I've got Rudiger and, we've only got 5 defender slots. I'm not going to get rid of Robertson. I'd like to keep Alexander-Arnold. I like Cancelo. I've got Rudiger. And so if I could wildcard now, or if I don't run out of time, ultimately I would like 5 defenders. And I think my other defender slot will either be James or Laporte. It will be a double up of either City or Chelsea, because I don't want any strikers anymore apart from Kane. and there's so many premium defenders who could really kick off in a double game week. And in my personal position, which we'll come to in a bit, when we talk about game week 33 about whether it's a free hit or bench boost. I don't have any chips left for game week 36 in mind. So for me, I don't care when Chelsea or City double. I'm not looking to maximise 36, because if Chelsea double in 35 or 37 and 36 is City's turn, it doesn't bother me, because as long as I can get those players in for those, it doesn't matter when they play, because I'm not invested in a free hit or a bench boost in 36. But the chips could fall in favour of those people who are doing that. But
I keep looking. I've really struggled this week knowing what to do in terms of moves, and I keep coming back to Chelsea and Man City, because I just keep thinking, no matter what your strategy is, those are the players you're going to want moving forward in your teams. And I really struggle with Man City attackers, because I feel like De Bruyne is probably the most nailed one in terms of moving forward and the games he's going to play, and he's probably the player you want. Foden's obviously the other one that's always flirts with wanting to be in your team because he's such a nice price. Chelsea attackers, Havertz, Mount, and then rotation's obviously going to be a bit of an issue. But then it just comes down to the defenders, and I do like the defenders more than I like the attackers. And I think Joe's kind of gone for it there, and I kind of agree. I'm flirting with playing five at the back.
Yeah,
I really am. I really like, that kind of five at the back of Trent when he comes back, or Robertson, and then you've got James, Rudiger, Cancelo, and Laporte. I mean, what a cracking back five that would be. And I'm looking at it and thinking, I think I would trust that back five to get me more points than Mount, Havertz, than Foden, De Bruyne by the end of the season. So I'm looking at it thinking, yeah, even Leicester. People are looking at Leicester assets. Do I get Harvey Barnes in, or do I get Cancelo in? I don't think it's really that hard a choice, personally.
I mean, the thing I do, I look at my team with Che Adams in it, or other people might be looking at their teams with Jimenez, which is probably going to become Weghorst for some people. And you look at all of those, and what are we talking about? 6.5, 7 million. They can't eat. They're not fit to carry the cloaks of these champions in defence that we've talked about. They're not fit to lick the boots of Cancelo.
Well, I mean, that's a nice segue into our next team, which is Leicester, because your 6.5 price defenders are up against, say, a Barnes and a Maddison in terms of, a price point in your squad, I guess. I'm with you. I'll probably go for the defenders. But Leicester do have Newcastle and Everton in 33, as Lego Money puts down here, Everton and Chelsea in 36, and then Watford and Norwich in 37 as well. So if I've got this correct, that is 3 doubles potentially upcoming. So there probably should be room for some Leicester players in our squad, do you think?
Yeah, I think the Leicester midfielders are different to those numpties up front I've just been talking about, because Barnes and Maddison have that potential to do well, and they do have those doubles, and they get more. They're midfielders; they get more points. They get more points for showing up. They get more points. They just get more points for goals, and their bread and butter is assists. So the bonus, should help them with that regard, which helps Maddison and Barnes. I've got Rafinha. I like him, and I'm going to keep him for game weeks 31, 32. He misses game week 33. How fortuitous that Leicester then have a double. Then I will be getting Barnes or Maddison in, whichever is fit.
That's a very neat transfer, isn't it? Some people made in 30 or so. I think I'm with you.
Easy. I don't need to worry about cost or anything like that. I'm just going to roughly have that amount of money.
I'm the same. Yeah, it's exactly the same. I've got 2 free transfers now. I'm most probably only going to use one this week, so I get more information next week, and then attack game week 33. Either with a free hit, so I'll have to use 2 free transfers to 32, or edging towards not using free hit, and then I'll bring Barnes in for Barnes or Maddison in for Rafinha, because, like I said, it just makes too much sense, I think.
For sure. And so our next team, which I'm going to go over quite quickly because they don't have any doubles to come, is West Ham. They do have a couple of nice fixtures coming up in the short term. Everton, Brentford, Burnley. They have Europe in the middle of that, though. We don't know about Bowen at the moment. While in a traditional season, that might be nice. I think you spend your transfers on the doublers and you ignore West Ham for now, which means we move on to Spurs. We already own a few of their assets. We may even want to lose a couple in maybe Doherty for the defenders. They have a double with Liverpool and Arsenal in 36 down here. So maybe not that attractive. What do you reckon?
I like Spurs till the end of the season, personally. I think someone like Kulusevski could leave teams. I think he's someone you could segue to one of those mids that, has the doubles like Maddison or something like that. But I think Kane is easily a hold to the end of the season. Obviously, Doherty's the other one, isn't he? If I'm doing that 5 at the back, is Doherty going to be part of that? I probably don't think he will be. So,
yeah, I mean, a similar, slightly different players. I've got Ben Davis, Kulusevski, and Kane. Kane going nowhere. Kulusevski, he's really well. He's basically Son, but he is 4 million cheaper.
Tell that to people who had Kulusevski over Son this week, mate.
Well, yeah, but then the weeks before, and then in away games, and you add it all up, and he is like, I mean, how much will he be next season? So he is.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be shocked if he was the same as Son, though.
I don't think it won't be the same because of the pedigree of Son. He's had
7.5,
many seasons.
8. He probably should have been priced as like Luis Diaz was, give or take.
Yeah.
For me, I own Kulusevski, and I think he's been incredible so far for his price. I don't think he's Son. I really don't think he can cover Son.
Away games?
Maybe, but Son is just so explosive, and he plays off that front. And
it can be at home as well.
I'm a tiny bit suspicious of the home and away. Like, I mean, you could back that up with empirical evidence, and I can't argue too hard with that. But at the same time, we say Son is good when Spurs have room to break into. Maybe they're looking at counters. Well, that happens away from home more than at home. So I'm slightly suspicious that we can hold on to home and away too hard with Son.
Well, I mean, basically, if you look at the just performances and the stats, he explodes, and when would you captain him? I would definitely captain Son at home if I owned him, but away I'm not sure. But I mean, he's got these really great home games, so it's almost immaterial. But Kulusevski is such a good player, and I do think there was a slight sort of Twitter feel to his performance last time. Oh, he didn't get too many points, Son did. Therefore, he is appalling, and I will get rid of him from my team immediately. Well, he's staying in my team, but Ben Davis is another matter. He can go because there's just simply not enough spaces for all of these defenders I want.
I worked out, so I didn't get Kane. I had Son, I got Kulusevski, and I've got Doherty. And I worked out because I think it would have cost me a -8, give or take. Well, at least let's pretend it does, because that makes me feel better to do Son to Kane. I believe Son underperformed against Kane by 7 points or so. So if I did it by a -8, I actually would have ended up net 1 point down. So in theory, I shouldn't have done it. Of course, the season hasn't ended, and I do think Kane is the better option. But right now, I'm probably not going to get Kane. I'm happy with Son. If I have to captain a Spurs player, I'll captain Son. Obviously, I'd rather captain Kane. And as you mentioned there, the fixtures for Spurs, maybe not the double itself, but the rest of the fixtures are great. We have Newcastle at home, Villa away, Brighton at home, Brentford away, Leicester at home, then the double, Burnley at home, and Norwich away. So not only are they good fixtures, but some of those home fixtures, Newcastle are a bit better now, but the rest are pretty attractive for your Son or for your Kane.
Yeah, I suggested before the game week started that I was one of those people that said if you wanted to sell Son for Kane, it's okay to do it. And I still think it is. I still think Kane. I don't think Son can cover. I think Kane is in that form now, and I think while we're captaining Kane in those fixtures, you're going to be captaining Son, and I think Kane captainers will come out better from it personally. But I could be wrong. Son could go on an absolute stormer now. But yeah, I just feel like Kane is in that form, and if you don't have him, you're going to be looking every week and thinking, oh, why don't I have Kane?
So just to counter, I would rather have Kane, but I don't, and I didn't want to make that move. Just to counterpoint the captaincy, though, when Spurs do have their good fixtures, we have a double in 31. Okay, of course, but maybe Salah, I guess, there. And then some of their other good home fixtures are when other teams will double or have similarly strong fixtures. So there is a possibility where you don't actually captain Kane much or at all until the end of the season.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, and then if you take captaincy away from those two things, it's not as big a decision to make, is it?
Do you remember the all-out attack chip? I want an all-out defense chip. Bin my forwards off.
I was just looking at the fixtures for game week 38. So that game week 38 is where I seem to traditionally captain Kane on game week 38, and he seems to always sort of come in for me. But anyway, Spurs play Norwich away. So it's away. It's against Norwich. Norwich are the worst team, the worst defence. Yeah, definitely. If you're not going to have Kane, try and get him for game week 38 at least.
There is the opportunity that there's a double in there. Is there maybe a double for Chelsea in the 38?
I think that would have to be that scenario where they get through in Europe all the way.
Maybe.
They've done it before.
I think. Good point, well made.
And
Worth noting, though, that City have Villa at home, Liverpool have Wolves at home. If there's less than 3 points between them for the title, I'm captaining Salah.
Yeah, I mean, that's an important point about motivation as well, because we talk about West Ham and their motivation really is Europe. So they're not going to be looking for the league. So yes, Bowen could be back and their assets, but you know, when they've got, if they're still in Europe, that's where they're going to be. That's where their heart and their feet are. And so, yeah.
Speaking of Europe, a team that might be looking to push into Europe again this season, or the big boy Europe at least, is Arsenal. We've covered them a lot in recent weeks. They've had some good fixtures. They have a double in 33 and a potential double in 36. 33 would be Southampton and Chelsea, and then 36 would be Leeds and Tottenham, which is maybe a bit more attractive. They do have some decent fixtures around that as well. I currently have 3 Arsenal players. I'm guessing we all have a combination of 2 or 3 Arsenal players.
Yeah, I've got Saka, Ramsdale, and my move this week that is going to be Kilman to Ben White, and I'm going to bench Ben White. How boring is that?
That's a baller move.
Sorry, Benjamin White.
That's how you get from 117k to 90k.
Yeah. I've got Saka, Martinelli, and Ramsdale. I love them. I love Arsenal this year. I love watching them play. They're playing some unbelievable stuff. They're set in their way as well. Like, I don't think Smith Rowe is going to be coming in much, if I'm perfectly honest. I think they're pretty set with that formation and the way they're playing. So yeah, I'm going to be holding on to them. Martinelli's perfect for me, but a hard fixture, I bench him. And Saka is one of the players of the season this year. So yeah, more than happy.
I mean, that
a little bit worried about Ramsdale. I'm assuming he is fit to play.
Yeah,
this week.
I mean, I was just going to say, with Ramsdale and Martinelli, Game Week 30 was such a kick in the whatnots.
I know.
Like Martinelli just phantom suddenly illness, and same with Ramsdale injury came from nowhere, and it's so frustrating. I've had Martinelli on my side. I feel he's not on my side at the moment, but I feel like he's my player because I've had him in my side for a little while before. Yeah. So.
Just on Ramsdale, he's currently 50% flag on FPL, so I'd say check Scout towards the end of the week. I'm not sure which way that 50% will go. Maybe you can afford to bench him until the doubles. And I mean, away from FPL as well, I really enjoy what Arsenal are doing at the moment. That plan with Arteta is paying off, and there are some other clubs potentially that could take that direction in the future, or maybe could have done it at the same time that Arsenal did. And it's genuinely just nice to see that working. A young team with a likable manager playing some good stuff.
Do you know one of the things I love the most as well is do you remember that video of that boy in the car shouting at Arteta saying how awful it is and he's ruined his club and all this stuff? Remember that? And I just look back and think it's so fickle, fans sometimes, aren't they? And how quickly things can change. And now Arteta's doing a fantastic job. Arsenal are the team everybody want to be, and it's through all these decisions that are so controversial, like Aubameyang leaving. But look how well they've done since he's left. And
when they signed Ramsdale. Yeah. I chuckled. I thought he was terrible. And I mean, well, you don't need me to tell you I'm wrong. It's very, very obvious that I was wrong about that.
It's like when people say about, what's Ringo Starr doing in the Beatles with Arteta at Arsenal? The Beatles were lucky to have Ringo Starr. He was a great drummer and kept them together. And then, until they weren't. And Arteta is doing a similarly impressive, quietly fantastic job at Arsenal. He's the Ringo Starr of the Premier League.
I tell you what, now, as a Man United fan, I'm very jealous of what's happening at Arsenal at the moment.
Yeah, fair. So speaking of Man United, let's move on to the better team in that part of the world, Leeds United. Frankly, I think we can skip us here. We have a double against City and Chelsea. That Chelsea double, of course, is pending what we spoke about with Chelsea with Europe. And we have a blank in 33. You probably hold Rafinha for Southampton and Watford and then bin him off. I don't think there's much more needs to be said there. So Everton. Joe, I know you may cover this in a minute, so I'll just call out the fixtures. They have West Ham and Burnley in a double in 31, and then they are due for a double in 36 with Leicester and Crystal Palace, and potentially 37 with Brentford and Watford. Again, this is Legomani's prediction, but I'd say they're decently on track with that. There's a good chance it's correct. Anything to say there, or want to save it for a moment, Joe?
No, I think Andy's going to lead the discussion. I've given Andy the discussion for Game Week 31, double Game Week assets, because I'm anticipating he'll be quite short, and that leaves him to press buttons and look at really flashing lights saying no internet and things like that.
I've made a lot of notes on that one.
I mean, we've stayed online so far. This is a roaring success. So we're about halfway through. We'll pick it up a little bit as well. So we have Villa, who a lot of people are losing Coutinho, but I think may want him back shortly. They potentially have a double in 35 against Norwich and Burnley, and 36 against Burnley and Liverpool. Burnley back to back could be fun. What are you doing with your Villa players, or what do you plan to do?
I only have Ramsey, and I'm going to get rid of him at some point before game week 33 for whoever I can get. And there'll be a few cheap options there. So, yeah, I'll do that. So I'm looking for basically going to be a bench boost player.
I should mention they blank in 33, sorry, as Joe happily reminded me there.
Yeah. I don't own any, and I have no intention of getting any anytime soon.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Newcastle, another team you may or may not want players from. They have a double of Leicester and Palace in 33, and then that's pretty much it. The end of the season is quite rough with Liverpool, City, Arsenal, and then final day Burnley. There's Tottenham to come. We know they've improved. I have Dubravka, who may or may not be ill, but I don't know if I'd be looking to do any more than that. What about you?
Yeah, I have Dubravka as well. Ideal. Hopefully he's recovered for his lost in translation infection angina, if I said that correctly. Angina is not infectious, and so something got lost in translation there. It could have meant something completely different, in which case there's a whole new story to tell there about Dubravka. But I think Dubravka is very good for bench boosters, but as Seb pointed out, he's perhaps he's good as a backup goalie there on him, and so he's cheap enough. Was he 4.4?
Yeah.
And I do think we have to sort of we have to alter our expectations about Newcastle. They're no longer that relegation threatened side. They're an absolute big money bag side who've got in some great players. I know Trippier's not fit, but they've still got, the likes of bizarrely Joe Linton doing well, Target, and they've just improved across the park. Fraser, my favourite, Chris Wood. They're a better side. They're not, a Man City yet or anything like that, but they're a better side, and so they are tougher to beat, and they are they can actually score goals. So I do think if anyone's thinking of Fraser, I mean, I might get Fraser in indeed for a bench boost, 33. Chris Wood, and I think Cher in their defence, and Dubravka. I think they do have cheap assets right across the park. But as Seb pointed out, long term, you want them on the bench. So if you're going to bench boost post 33, they're probably not the team I would get unless you've got a wild card to get rid of them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost more interesting who they're playing as opposition because they've become tougher. So Tottenham playing them this week. Is that actually now tougher than the FPL fixture ticker will tell us? And with teams that maybe, their form, their toughness has changed. We've got Wolves next, who I believe have a double in here, provisionally 37 of Norwich and Man City. Otherwise, some all right fixtures in the short term, but nothing too special. And I mean, I'm probably binning off my Wolves players. What about you, Andy?
Yeah, well, I've only got one. I've only got 8 Nori. And I'm looking at him and thinking he's 4.3 million I bought him for. He can be bench fodder till the end of the season if I wanted to, but obviously he's the person I would upgrade if I was to upgrade somebody, and maybe you could play 5 at the back, or if Trent's injured, maybe I could bench him and bring 8 Nori's replacement in, someone like that. But I'm looking, I mean, Newcastle, they like you said, they've got Wolves and they've got Leicester and Crystal Palace in the double, and then they've got Norwich. So they've got 3 home games, and then their away game is against Norwich. I really like the look of them in terms of, especially defensively. I think someone like Fabian Schär, I think you could invest in someone like him and you could be quite happy for 3 game weeks. I can see 2 clean sheets in that, maybe 3. And if considering they're improving as well. So for me personally, I think if you didn't want to go really heavy at the back, someone like Schär, Dan Burn, I think they're players that you can actually have and be quite happy with for the next couple of weeks. And then, like Joe said, bench him against Liverpool and Man City. Yeah, I don't mind it at all. Just be aware that, like I said, from game week 35 to 37, you're not going to want to be playing them at all.
Also, I mean, so Dan Burns, player I know, is ex-Brighton player, but Newcastle are his side. He is back home in Newcastle. His motivation when he plays, he will, put in a really good shift when he played for Brighton. But, there's extra motivation for him. So he is a reliable defender in a very improving defense. He's great to have in for a bench boost in 33, or just on your bench to afford some other players that you might want if you don't want to go really, really heavy at the back. But yeah, I mean, I've got Dubravka. That's as far as I'm going to go for Newcastle. But if I didn't, I'd probably go for Share or Dan Burn.
Yeah, I think if you don't have any and you want one, maybe the defender is the shout. As Andy said, possibly if you're not going massive at the back, because otherwise you maybe go a bit cheaper. I've got Dubravka. I'm happy there. And so then the next team we're looking at is Palace. They have a potential double in 36 against Watford and Everton, which could be attractive. Worth noting that in 33, which I should say Wolves do blank in 33, they have the FA Cup semi-final against Chelsea. Chelsea also have that European match. And this then feeds into that 36-37 period. So I believe whatever happens in Palace-Chelsea FA Cup, Palace could still play Villa in 37 because they would say play at the midweek rather than the weekend or whichever way around it is. But it's worth watching what Chelsea do as well there for European, which I think then falls in that midweek. So there is a situation where if Chelsea go and win both those matches, Madrid and Palace in the Cup, I think there's a chance they end up with no match there, which maybe is where your 38 double comes in, Joe. Please go fact check that for me. But I think that's how that falls, looking at the spreadsheet we have here.
I love Crystal Palace, even as a Brighton player. This has been weird for me saying I love Crystal Palace. I love Crystal Palace players in FPL. I've traditionally, Jason Punchin has been a favourite of mine. And in a double game week, your likes of Zaha, Conor Gallagher, their defenders, their goalkeeper, their multitude of attackers. Mateta is like, what's he, 5.2? So if you're bench boosting in game week 36, and Crystal Palace have a double, then Mateta looks absolutely brilliant. If we all hate our strikers and you've suddenly got a really cheap one there, you don't have to invest lots there. But I think Crystal Palace players are great for a bench boost for 36.
I know, Andy, were you looking at a certain transfer to a Crystal Palace midfielder?
Was I? I know I was talking to Ted earlier about potentially getting a Crystal Palace player in. And I think for me, it would be Zaha or Gallagher. Personally, I think, and I don't know why. I think I've got some bias because I just remember owning Zaha under Hodgson, and it isn't the same as now. And I think we've got to forget what Crystal Palace were like and think about what they're like this year. And they're obviously a lot different this year. Zaha is on penalties, but Gallagher, I think, is just such good value. And I think I'd struggle to not get someone like Gallagher over Zaha because that money can be used elsewhere. So.
I'm pre-Hodgson so I remember that, when Zaha humiliated Brighton in many a playoff final, not final, like those playoff games in the Championship, and their midfielders, can really. I mean, was it Milivojevic?
Milivojevic.
On penalties, brilliant double game week. Couple of penalties, there you go. Traditionally there's a lot of points with a lot of cheap points to be got from Crystal Palace players in FPL.
Yeah, I think I'd struggle to get them in before game week 34. I think after game week 34, when they've got Leeds, Southampton, Watford all in a row, I quite like that. But before that, I think there's probably some other teams I'd be targeting. Like I said, Chelsea, Man City, and then those double players for 33. I think I'd struggle to get them in before that personally.
I mean, maybe if you're using a chip in 36 and you've got Watford and Everton for Palace, there's something to go for there. A defender and a Zaha, something like that, maybe.
Yeah, quite like that.
So we then have Southampton, who double in 33 against Arsenal and Burnley. Their fixtures are okay. We've had some of their players in the past. Do either of you have any of their players now? I know you've got Che Adams, Joe, so you plan to keep him and use him, right?
I've got Brozier and Che Adams. Che Adams, yeah, he's my star. We'll come to best double game week 33 players, but there's a certain Che Adams in the top three. So Che Adams, excellent. What another bad word said against them.
Is that top three Southampton strikers?
No. Okay, top three players who have a double fixture.
Oh.
I feel like it's worth caveating that Joe keeps comparing him to Chris Wood. You can take that however you like.
He's no Chris Wood. But no, I've got Brozier and Che Adams, so I'm in a unfortunate or fortunate position where I'm actually really well set up for a bench boost in 33. If you have any Southampton players, it's probably worth keeping them, benching them, and if you want a bench boost in 33, they're quite good. If you don't want a bench boost in 33 and you just don't like them and don't want them, get rid of them. But I do think, with the likes of Livramento, Stuart Armstrong, Elyounoussi, there's a lot of really good value, potential points, and of course Ward-Prowse. on penalties. So you've got a lot of potential. I really like Southampton in terms of their price and their potential, because they can lose, and then they can win, and you just don't know. So there's a bit of excitement there. But they really can beat anyone, and they really can lose anyone. They can beat Man City one week and then lose 10-0 the next. That's Southampton.
Yeah, I've only got Brozier. And I'm happy with him. We've already said about strikers. I'm not fussed about strikers this year apart from Kane. So Brozier I can keep, and I can play him against they've got some nice fixtures after 33. So yeah,
I'm happy. I've got Brozier as well. If Jimenez hadn't been sent off, I may well have been moving on Brozier. I'm happy to hold him, bench him, use him when I need him for now, I think. We now have Brighton, who have a double of Tottenham and Man City in 33, which might be the worst double going. And there's some all right fixtures in there, but I think a combination of Brighton not being in the best place themselves, they're fine, but not spectacular team we've seen in the past, and the fixtures only being okay with a not attractive double, I'd argue we probably aren't getting any Brighton players. Maybe Maupay. Do you still have Maupay, Andy?
Yeah, I've still got Maupay and I've still got Sanchez. I'm playing Maupay this week because he's got Norwich at home. I'm not enthused by them at all at the moment. I think they almost seem like they're the team that's on the beach already.
They are literally on the beach. Literally.
Brighton Pier. Sat there with a cocktail.
It's a shingle beach.
Yeah.
So they're literally on a very painful, smelly beach.
Yeah, so I'm keeping him this week. It looks like Sanchez, I think he left Spanish team, didn't he? He left them because he was injured, apparently. So that's not obviously great. But, I mean, I'm keeping Maupay and just hoping he plays against Norwich. But and yes, that was Mrs. North you saw in the background.
Yeah, I mean, can we see a pram there as well? I recognise that rain cover. Yeah,
there it is.
I'm very familiar with that setup.
I'm a family man, mate.
So we then come to Burnley, who we will cover either in some detail or no detail in a moment. When I said someone had Man City as a double, I said Everton. I think it's Burnley, of course, because they have Man City and Everton. So realistically, they maybe just have Everton. But they do then have West Ham and Southampton in 33, and Wolves and Aston Villa looking like 35, according to the prediction here, potentially because of their opposition having Europe, I guess, maybe. But what do we think about them? Or do we want to save that for a moment?
Yeah, I think we'll save it for a moment. But I will point out, Game Week 32, they play Norwich away. So that's a good pro in terms of getting a Burnley player in.
I will somehow contain my Weghorst excitement for about 5 more minutes. We have Norwich, speaking of excitement. They only have a double in 37 we have down here for Wolves and Leicester. I don't think anyone's after Norwich unless it's bench fodder.
No, unless you really want to see a team hammered.
And he's after Norwich. He's tripping.
Just going to say, Pookie has done a lot better than people think he has over the last couple of weeks.
That is a good point, actually.
And actually, like when you're looking at the lack of strikers, he is. If you look at how he's done, he has done better than 95% of strikers that we've got in the game. So he is not the worst player to have. But are you really going to own him? Probably not. So it's just one to just keep an eye on. Personally.
He's 5.8. So I guess it's like if I didn't have Brozier, could it have been a Pookie? But I'm probably not making that swap.
If they double in Game Week 37 against Wolves and Leicester away, and Norwich have to, if they are down and out by then, I wouldn't go near Norwich, definitely. But if they are actually within a cusp of staying in the Premier League, it's a big if. Then Pookie could be a good player to own them.
Right, so let's wrap this one up. We have Brentford, who have no double, no blank, boring, ignore. Maybe you have even Tony, but Chelsea, West Ham, Watford, it's all right in the next 3, but we can probably do better. And then Watford, who do have a double in 37 I have here, with Leicester and Everton both at home. Are they just too rubbish, or are we tempted by any Watford players? I've got Foster, but that's because he's cheap.
We're all scarred by King and Dennis. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if Ronaldo, Messi, whoever joins Watford. It doesn't matter now. We're all scarred. We can't go there.
Josh King scored a brace. Same number of goals as Haaland did this week. He scored a penalty. He's ahead of Haaland for penalties.
Well,
Man City are signing the wrong Norwegian, right?
Faroe Islands, Western Samoa.
I think it might have been Armenia or something. So, but Mkhitaryan.
Boom. So we do have a little note here as well that says, if you were to move Foster to Pickford, They've got
Ooh.
quite a nice rotation.
So I was maybe going to mention this later, but I guess it ties in here. So this was FPL Harry mentioned this to me. I had not thought of this because I have Dubravka and Foster and I'm potentially looking at a goalkeeper transfer, which might be my first one outside of wildcard, I think. The options being Pope, Pickford or Schmeichel. This is the Pickford option, which would leave me, and this would be holding on to Dubravka and removing Foster. So I need about 0.8 to do that. Pickford has a double in 31. Dubravka then has Wolves at home in 32. Dubravka would then double in 33. Dubravka would then have Norwich, and he said Warwich. Norwich in 34. 35, it's tough, but Everton could double. And as we've seen above, we've got that possibility. 36, Pickford then double. 37, Pickford is Brentford at home. And 38 is Dubravka, Burnley away. So if you're in for a bit of a goalkeeper rotation and want to maybe maximize some doubles, it's possible.
It's just a shame an Everton defender is in that rotation.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah. So there was something else here, but it's just disappeared.
I've moved it.
Oh, you've moved it. Okay.
I've moved it because the way the discussion was going, it fits better a bit later.
He's sabotaging our hosting, Andy. He wants it back.
He is. He's like this.
No, it's
He's
on my
like
bit
this.
anyway.
No, it's fine, Joe. It's fine. I understand. Right. The next bit is actually for me to discuss.
Yeah, I've taken nothing out of this.
I know. I can't wait. I've literally got pages of information. So this is who are the best double game week 31 assets. And of course, it is Burnley and Everton that double this week. It does literally say here this will last about 1 second or as long as it takes to say none. So let's have a look. I'm going to bring up, we haven't changed the screen in a while. Let me change the screen for you. There we go. So we've got here the XGI expected goal involvement of Burnley and Everton in the last 4 matches. You can see that Dwight McNeil is top with 1.52. Then it's Rondon, the players I'm mentioning here. Then it's Iwobi. Then Weghorst. Weghorst is 4th on this list. 0.92 in the last 4 matches.
We all love an underdog.
Then it's Tom Davis, then Cornet, then Calvert-Lewin, and then Ben Mee. I would love to get excited by this game week, double game week, but it's Everton and Burnley. Everton are just so bad at the moment. Burnley already burnt us in a double game week a couple of weeks ago. I have no interest in Everton or Burnley assets myself. I think if there are people out there that have their assets, I can understand you playing them. But I think there are too many good single game week players with good fixtures this week. I can even understand if you have an Everton asset or Burnley asset and you bench them this week. I can understand it. So for me, although we have got a table up here showing the best assets, these are just the best assets of the worst teams that we've got in the league at the moment. So I'm just completely ignoring it. If it's me, Joe, I don't know how you feel.
What I found interesting about this was that people are genuinely going to get Weghorst in, and when they've got, say, Jimenez in their side, I can see it's a nice, easy move. It's a good price point to move on. You save a bit more. You save a bit more money. It's like about $1 million or $500,000, something like that. And he's got the sheer quantity of fixtures. So even if he shows up, there's some weeks he's going to get 4 points or so, which for that striker. But if you are going to get a Burnley player in terms of the quality of the shots and the chances being created, it's Dwight McNeil is the player that people should be getting. So whilst I'm not saying get Dwight McNeil, I'm saying if you're going to get Weghorst, why ignore Dwight McNeil? Who's getting who's had 3 chances created last 4 shots in the box, and Weghorst has had 3 shots in the box, and he hasn't created a dicky bird.
Right, so allow me to make the case for the defence, despite believing the defence is full of holes and should retire.
Go on, Seb, go on. If you can convert one of me or Joe, I'll be so impressed.
So, personally, obviously, I may be looking for a goalkeeper. If Dubravka is out, I have Foster. I really do need a goalkeeper. So, Pope obviously is an option there. He's an immediate option. I would probably do Dubravka to Pope, which I have about 1.2 in the bank, I think. So, it's 0.8, 0.9, something like that, I think. Or it might be $1 million. As I mentioned a moment ago, though, I think my preferred route would be, say, Foster to Pickford, which is ever so slightly cheaper and gives me maybe some better options going forward. So the thing that then applies to everyone else is Weghorst. I know it's terrible. It's basically just playing FPL by the numbers as opposed to by, I don't know, football, which maybe is a good idea. But they have in 31, they have City and Everton. Okay, fine. Ignore City, but he gets 2 points, maybe a set piece, who knows? And Everton, it's a reasonable chance, but yes, it's still Burnley. He then has West Ham and Southampton in 33. Again, nothing too special. Probably a similar chance of scoring to the previous double, but just spread over two matches. And then he will have a double in 35, I think we have here, which includes Villa. I'm not saying you're going to go and get 20 odd points from it. But if you contrast that to, say, I mean, who am I moving on? Jimenez? Well, that's kind of obvious. I think he outscores Jimenez over that period, mostly because Jimenez isn't available. Your other option is, say, doing a Jimenez to a Gelhardt. Gelhardt is not going to outscore Weghorst, even if, well, I hope he does, but he probably won't, even if Weghorst doesn't do much, just because it's not our first choice striker, even with Bamford out. What you'd then be relying on is Gelhardt becomes a bench player and you're looking to maybe move to big at the back, like yourself, Andy. But then you're spending more transfers, and I think it's reasonable to add the cost of those transfers, whether it's a literal cost or an opportunity cost, to this calculation. So what I'm basically arguing is similar to the Son and Kane thing, where you might win by 1 point, but feel horrible about yourself. But I think I make that move because I genuinely think you end up with a couple more points, or at the very least, more transfers.
I mean, we should probably be listening to you because obviously you're higher than us this year. But my biggest thing now, with only, 8 weeks left, is you're bringing in these players, and after the double game week, you need to be able to look at these players in your team and go, yeah, I've got him in my team. I know why I've got him in my team. And if Weghorst does exactly the same as he did last time and blanks in both games, you're going to look at him in your team, 6.4 million striker, that you're going to look at, because he's going to be on your bench for like the rest of the season, isn't he? And you're going to look at him and think, I now need to either get him out or he's just going to be on my bench. Gelhardt, at least you can look at him and go, well, you're here because you're going to be on my bench and you're freeing up funds for me. And I just look at Weghorst and think, I don't see what he's going to be doing in this double game. Even if he gets a goal, I'm going to be looking at him thinking, yeah, but I've still got him in my team the next week. And I couldn't do it. Even if I had Jimenez, I don't think I'd be doing it. I think I'd be moving down to someone like Brozier, where at least I'm looking at him in my team in a double game week, which is nice moving forward. And then I can still bench him. Whereas Weghorst was 5 million, I think it's very different. But for 6.4, I just think he tips over into that. He's too much to then have in my team later on without moving out.
So, Seb, can I tempt you with Dwight McNeil?
No.
Who's a better player? And
sure.
A better FPL asset.
I mean, he's not a better FPL asset because he's a midfielder, and there are many, many midfielders.
He gets more
desire
points.
more than him.
He'll get his. Oh no, he won't get a clean sheet point because they're playing City next.
Yeah.
I mean, so to just come back on what you said, Andy, I look, we're broadly in agreement, right? For me, it's basically at the least of some worst options.
Yeah.
I do already have Brozier, so that option isn't there for me. So it's basically between, am I going Gelhardt or similar and putting funds elsewhere? And when you say, oh, if Weghorst doesn't do anything this week, then I've got him forever. He does have a double in 33 and 35.
Oh.
So I can hold on to hope for a bit longer. I mean, for me personally, I think I do it. If Jimenez hadn't been sent off, I think I'm probably moving Brozier to Gelhardt or something and then moving those funds around. So maybe I should just move even more funds.
Like I said, you've been making a lot of good decisions this year. It could be that me and Joe are laughing at Weghorst, and actually, this is the week he gets a brace.
Sometimes you don't win by getting most points. You win by not having Weghorst.
Exactly.
And I know I will win that. I'll win the Weghorsts.
Is it about winning, or is it about having to watch Burnley?
Sometimes you only win if you own Dwight McNeil. It's just how it works. Yeah.
Well, it's going to be very funny next week when we come back and we talk about Dwight McNeil's points. or point.
That's going to be your differential for this week, isn't it? Community questions were Chuck B was asking, when is Handy Andy appearing on TV's DIY SOS? And Matt Francis, any tips on laying decking? I'm not going to lie, hardest thing I've done in years. My body on Saturday night, I did most of it on Saturday. I was just gone. I was in bed by 8. I was so tired. But
we are still talking about the decking, right?
Yes. And then finished it on Sunday. But I tell you what, I was very, very happy I did it. Very happy I did it. It looks very good out in there now. And the community seemed to be hanging on my every word with my decking updates. So thank you very much for taking this journey with me. Right, Joe, to lead the next discussion. Let me change the slide here. So he's going to be leading discussion about the best double game week 33 players looking ahead.
So, yes, the reason I'm looking at this, and so this is sort of follows on from a chat that Praz and Sinaldo had in the Burning Questions video and podcast. our Fantasy Football Scout. That was last week. Do have a look back in your podcast directory and have a look on YouTube for that. It's a very good video that sums up a lot of the points we've been making. But one of the points they're making that was very interesting was talking about Game Week 33, the double game week there, and double game week 36. And if you've got lots of chips left, or if you've got one chip left, and how you use them. And so some people like me have the bench boost left, and some people like you two have a free hit left. And game weeks 33 and 36 look the most advantageous times to play those chips. And it depends how your team is set up, as usual, always team dependent, and also the sorts of players that you want to get in and what you want to achieve from the season. So for me, in 33, a bench boost is the better move, because I have Newcastle, I've got Southampton, I've got cheap Arsenal players. I want to get another cheap Arsenal player in. I'm set up for a bench boost. My team is just already, is already there, and it's not well set up for a bench boost in 36. I will have to downgrade. We'll have to have a really rubbish bench. I'm going to have to go. I don't even know if there's a deeper than Gelhardt deep, but I'm going to go that. I'm going to go subterranean on my bench. And in order to afford the likes of Cancelo, Reece James, and just really going for all that. But for others, a free hit in 33 could be advantageous, because there are teams like, say, for example, Manchester United, who play Norwich as well as Liverpool, but Norwich, who could be a good captaincy option, because you're sort of getting extra points for Liverpool, but it's that Norwich game you're betting on. And these sort of players you might not want for the rest of the season. So there's sort of pros and cons for those types of things. So if you've got any of those chips left, think about game week 33 and 36. 33 is coming up. And in future Scoutcast, we're going to talk in more detail about game week 36 and some of those other doubles. And we'll have more information then. But we have that information with 33. Andy, do you have any slides on your screen? And do you particularly have a slide about the best double game week 33 players?
I do indeed. It's on the screen for you.
Great stuff. So in there, we can see that if you are free hitting, Fernandes and Ronaldo would be great assets to have, depending on your propensity to remove Harry Kane, who plays Brighton, if you own him. So they are the best two assets there. In terms of expected goal involvement, Fernandes edging towards 4, 10 chances created, 8 shots inside the box. Ronaldo, he's no slouch at 37, 15 shots inside the box and 6 chances created, expected goal involvement just over 3. And then my man, Che Adams, third best asset, just behind those two giants, 2.57 expected goal involvement, with his 9 shots inside the box and a couple of chances created. He is a great bench boost or free hit asset for 33. Then you've got ones like Lacazette, and then you've got Martinelli, but you've also got Armstrong at Southampton, 5.8. He's a really good, so whether bench boosting, free hitting, a good Southampton asset to bring in. Harvey Barnes, we were talking about. Myself and Andy were talking about Rafinha to Barnes. That looks like a really good move here. Barnes has certainly got the stats to back it up. 10 shots inside the box, expecting goal involvement just under 2. Then you've got Ward-Prowse, Livramento, and Smith Rowe, should he get any starts. So you can see there that the best double game week 33, these are ones that are playing twice: Manchester United, Southampton, Arsenal, and Harvey Barnes. So looking at that, that gives me satisfaction in knowing that for me a bench boost is good. For others, it might give them satisfaction that a free hit is good. For others, it might give them satisfaction they don't want to use any chips and they're happy with what they've got. But for you two, what are you doing in 33? You've got a free hit left. Are you going to use it in 33 or wait till 36?
For me, it was my initial plan to use free hit, because I like the idea of having players just for that 1 week that I probably wouldn't want moving forward. But I'm just looking at, for me, I wouldn't want to lose Kane. I feel like any advantage you would have, you would probably lose if you were losing Kane that week. And I think if I was free hitting, I would want Cristiano Ronaldo and Harry Kane up top. It's just so tough. It's so tough to get these United players in if you're not free hitting. So do you just completely ignore them? Like the Norwich game, Seb has already said they could rotate in that Norwich game. because they've got Liverpool and Arsenal with the next two, and it's really tough, and it's obviously in close succession. So I think I will probably end up ignoring Man United and going for the Newcastles, and the Leicesters and players like that. So I don't know, Seb, whether you agree with that, because obviously you're the same. You're not planning on using free hit in that week, are you?
Honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd need to decide this week really, because I can't just wait till 33. I need to start making transfers in one direction or the other. But to be completely honest, I am not sure. Maybe it depends on, I was talking about those transfers earlier, what I do, whether I get a Cancelo or whatever. I was free hitting in 33 United players. I would probably, maybe I go Kane. Maybe, I've got a decent team value, so maybe I try and get 2 premium forwards in. I've not looked enough to know what the rest of the team would have to look like, so maybe that's not possible. Worth noting that the stats we have on screen here are just in the last 4 as well. So while it's a good indication of current ability, if you like, it maybe favours recent matches and fixtures more. Someone like Shea Adams, who does appear highly there, I actually do really like. Like, we take the mick, but I had him a lot of, was it the season before last? His stats have always been pretty decent. And he's the one that's holding his place up front for Southampton, whereas Brozier and the others are getting rotated around him. So I think I'd probably end up with 1 at least, maybe 2 Man United. And then, yeah, it's a good selection from that list there. I already own Lacazette, for example. And if I wasn't free hitting, I think I'd probably ignore them like you, Andy.
Yeah.
Or that's when I then consider Sancho, just because he's easier to do with transfers.
Yeah, I think if you were free hitting, I think you go triple up on United, wouldn't you? And just hope that Norwich fixture is lovely. But I think because that other fixture is Liverpool, I think you can ignore it if you're not free hitting as well, which is weird, isn't it? Like, it sounds weird saying it, but you just can't get to them. You can't get to Bruno and Ronaldo easily without ruining the rest of your team. And with Kane having a nice fixture as well, it just doesn't make sense.
And also for a free hit, so we've got our Liverpool players. So if you're not free hitting, you keep your Liverpool players. You keep Salah against Manchester United, who I think could do well against them.
Yeah.
Or if you are free hitting, you have that decision. Do you use that Salah cash to get Fernandes, for example? And that's not a decision I don't have to make because I don't have the free hit. But that would be a tough decision to remove Salah for Fernandes. But that may be a decision with budget that people have to make, and that's something you need to consider. But yeah, we definitely need to start thinking. So I'm thinking of a bench boost then. So I'm starting to think about that with my moves now. And Seb was saying about if he's using a free, if he is or isn't using a free, he needs to decide, because his transfers from now will dictate what he does. And that will be the same. So it'll be the same for wildcarders as well. So are you wildcarding now, or are you going to wildcard in game week 34, for example? These are quite good times to wildcard, but it all depends on if you have other chips and when you're going to use them. But I've got another slide here.
I agree with Seb, by the way, that if whatever plan you're making, you've kind of got to make it now, because if you're not going to free hit or you're going to free hit, you've got to be thinking about those moves. But we've already mentioned Chelsea and City. If you're really stuck and you're not sure, invest in those players, because they're going to be good moving forward, no matter what you're going to do, really, I think, aren't they? So did you want me to bring up the next table, which is the best players?
This is simply best players, last 4 matches. So
on the screen for you now.
Yeah, this isn't filtering any out, apart from, if they're injured or not playing. So this shows how potent Salah is, with 16 shots inside the box, expected goal involvement getting on for nearly 6. And then you've got Harry Kane, another machine of points there. 8 chances created, 9 shots inside the box. Expected goal involvement nearly 5. And then Fernandes, just below them, with his 10 chances created, 8 shots inside the box. Tony, so if you've still got Tony, and you're thinking, I hate all other strikers, just keep him for a little while then, because he is on penalties, and Brentford are looking a bit better at the moment. Mane, once again, will we ever fit Mane in our teams? But he's still a good asset. 7 chances created, 10 shots inside the box. And then you've got Sterling at City, Ronaldo, Manchester United, Rafinha at Leeds. So people are looking at ditching Rafinha now. He's got good fixtures. As Seb will know, he's a very good player for Leeds. 13 chances created, 7 shots inside the box. I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's been unlucky not to haul recently. Havertz at Chelsea and 9 shots inside the box, 4 chances created. Once again, we're talking about Chelsea assets. And then we're getting more City. We're getting into City attacking assets. Foden, 10 shots inside the box, just 1 chance created. And De Bruyne, 12 chances created. It's just behind the mighty Rafinha with 7 shots inside the box. It's a great list there. And these are the sorts of players that we should be targeting at the moment if their fixtures are also favourable. So Rafinha, if you've got him, keep him for the next 2 because he's looking good. And I think his return is imminent soon. And then you can ditch him 33 when he blanks. But looking at City and Chelsea assets, and this isn't even going on to the defensive assets who don't figure in this table. But of course, the likes of Reece James can kick off at any moment with an absolutely huge haul in a game. This backs up what Andy was saying. If you want to just keep it simple, just target good players in good teams like City and Chelsea. Just keep it simple.
I think of the players on that list, obviously this is looking a bit further forward than maybe we are at the moment. I probably won't get to a Havertz just because of my team makeup and I want Reece James. But Foden, I think when we all start considering City, we'll have Cancelo. And then I think some people, especially on, wild cards or free hits, will go for De Bruyne. I've gone in and out of Foden a few times this season, and I think it's time to jump back. Oh, no. It's a good thing this isn't live, eh?
Oh, yeah.
How did he take that?
Someone trim that, please. Someone in the chat.
That's what Phil said.
Take that and trim it, please.
I'm standing by.
Oh dear.
He's a good baller, and I can't think of any words.
God. No words. Don't speak, sir.
Phil Foden, team, mine in, maybe. Move on.
Anyway, I was going to mention Havertz. I absolutely love Havertz at the moment. They finally found their striker.
I was going to mention Chris Wood, but I won't now.
Yeah, he won't now. And I love it moving forward. It's just a shame that obviously with Champions League, he could be the one that they play up front for Champions League. And then obviously they've got Lukaku, who's there in reserve as well, who's obviously, costs them a lot of money too. So Havertz, I would love to have in my team as well, but there's just so many midfielders we want, isn't there? So, and obviously Seb's got a bit of a thing for Foden. Joe, we do
just
have...
like what he does with his hair. What can I
say? Joe, we do have a Whipping Boys table up now as well, if you want to talk about that.
This is what a great segue into the Whipping Boys. These are the worst defences, to give it its official title, the worst defences last 4 matches. Norwich, still the worst. They are the team to target with attackers there. Then Leicester, expected goals conceded of 8. They've in fact only conceded 3, so they've been very, very lucky. But their Leicester, the defence is improving. It's worth pointing out they are getting bodies back there, and they don't have to rely on Vestergaard or whatever else they've got. Brighton's defence. So Brighton used to be at the bottom of this table, which meant they were good. But now they're one of the worst defences. 8 goals conceded and expected goals conceded with 8, so they're on par for being on the beach. West Ham, you can see why they're focusing on Europe here. So the expected goal conceded, getting on for 8. Burnley defence pretty bad. Watford, Manchester United, 8 goals conceded, but their expected goals conceded is over 7. So they're pretty much on course there for being a team that the likes of Salah could easily score against in Gameweek 33, which is something to keep in mind. Everton, Wolves, Brentford, moving down the list. But the best defences, Liverpool, Man City, Tottenham, Chelsea, Arsenal. This is surprising. Leeds, but they've been, their goals conceded is 7. However, the expected goals conceded is just over 4, which is on a par with the likes of Arsenal and Villa. Newcastle as well are worth mentioning. Goals conceded just 4 in the last 4 matches, and the expected goals conceded just over 4. So they're doing well there. So we have to. What I find interesting about this worst defences table, the way I do it over the last 4 matches, and I use this in the captaincy video as well, because this sort of it helps us to sort of catch up with the form at the moment. And suddenly we start. So some people might think, oh, Brighton, they've got good defence. Well, they haven't. They've got one of the worst defences now. Yeah. Or Leeds, they're easy to beat. Actually, I think their defence is getting better now. And the same goes for Newcastle as well. So it helps us to sort of temper our feelings about certain defences and put it into perspective. Of course, this all changes. This is the last 4 matches. So if we were to extrapolate this over the whole season, it'd be a different picture, except probably for Norwich. I haven't done it yet, but I suspect Norwich are the worst still.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's the interesting one to keep an eye on, who remains there, whether they've played City or not. Because sometimes people jump up and down because they've played City, Liverpool, because it's last 4.
Yeah.
Leeds, maybe an interesting one. It has improved there. We've both put up our best XG of the season and our best, so lowest XGC of the season since Jesse March took over. But we've also had a couple of, pretty poor displays. And it's worth noting the Wolves one. We weren't looking great and we were doing poorly in the numbers until pretty much that red card, which I know was controversial, but we don't really care about that here. We care about what happened, whether it was given or not. And that's when we then managed to, create our chances and obviously restrict Wolves. So I would still be a little cautious on Leeds, but I'm a pessimistic Leeds fan. So maybe other people can look at it a little bit more objectively than me.
We've mentioned it, or we've kind of touched on it a little bit as well. West Ham for me as well. I think they are emotionally completely invested in Europa League. Fans are completely invested in it. And it's almost feels a little bit at the moment like they get to a Premier League game and it's like, if we lose, we lose. It's not the end of the world. Even against Spurs, like they just look so tired, like not just physically either. They do mentally look shattered after all their European, and they're doing so well in Europe. And I just feel like they think top 4's gone. It's all about Europe. And I feel like they're going to be a team where people are thinking, they're good this year. But actually, I feel like they're going to be, especially against the better teams, I feel like they're going to be kind of opened up quite a bit moving forward. So they've got some good fixtures coming up. But yeah, I feel like they're completely invested in the Europa League at the moment. Right, we've got Alex's team now. So our community team. So he got 53 points and a small green arrow this week. We did Ramsey out for Barnes, which
I made that move. I remembered it.
Yeah, that was good in the end, to be fair. And obviously he's got 2 blank 33 players at the moment, but he's looking good for the bench boost in 33. And maybe a free hit in 36. So I think he's looking quite good.
Yeah, he's got a free hit left as well. So his team, I think he's going to overtake me.
Yeah. I think, what we're doing in terms of, so we're looking at free hit in 36. So we want some more players for that bench boost in 33, don't we?
Yeah. So, the options are, you've got to be thinking about moving your blank game week players. So who have we got? Kilman, Rafinha.
Yeah.
Is that it?
What do we have in the bank? Sorry.
I can't remember. It's not much, I think, this time, because we did Ramsey to Barnes, so that used up quite a bank there. So I mean, we're sort of slightly ahead of the pack, I think, because we've already got that triple Arsenal, but we've got that Barnes. So Barnes is going to be a move that people are going to be making, Rafinha to Barnes. So we can benefit from any points Barnes is going to get before that. He's already in place. That transfer's saved. And we've got Rafinha for a couple of weeks. So I don't want to remove Rafinha personally. Kilman. You look at the weak link, really. I think it's a great starting 11. Dubravka with his infectious angina, I'm sure will play to back up Ramsdale. And why remove Ramsdale? I suppose you could remove Ramsdale to Pope. He also plays twice in 33. But if one of those goalkeepers is going to play, might as well play. Kilman's the weak link, and so I'll be looking at something like Kilman to Share, or I don't know, a Burnley like Roberts or someone cheap like that who's going to play twice in 33. And I don't even think I would play Roberts in 31 because he's playing Man City. You could be getting minus points there.
Transfers, sorry.
Oh, and we have 2 transfers.
Okay. Because I was going to say, what I want to do is like.
Oh no, we have just the single transfer. Sorry.
Right. Okay. Because what I want to do is kind of make Kilman Cancelo or something, but obviously we can't do that in a straight move. Also, if we didn't do it this week, Cancelo then has, I forget off the top of my head, but not a great fixture before then, some better ones. So you'd arguably maybe wait 2 weeks for it.
Yeah, you can wait.
So is there a scenario where, and like I say, I need to study my own team, so I may be missing something here, but where we just roll this week and then use the 2 to bring in, like, say, a Cancelo or a James, whatever it is, like restructure the team a little bit with 33 and 36 in mind?
I think if you're looking for a potential cash cow, post 33, Adams can be removed and downgraded to Gerhardt or someone, that's going to free up a lot of money. 2.5 million, I think.
Yeah.
2 million, at least 2 million. Rafinha is good to go until 33. He can be removed then. He is another cash cow then. So it's a question of who we want. So Rafinha could become, say, Maddison, for example, or he could become a downgraded to another player. So it could be, I don't know, Fraser, or I don't know, whoever we decide and is fit at that time. But I think the thing of interest to other people with us managing this team is looking at who to remove Rafinha for and how to move to Cancelo. And so these are the sort of cash cows you might have in your team. So yeah, we could just roll this week, and then, but it's really 33 and 34 where I'd be looking to remove a cash cow to get Cancelo. And look to I mean, it's just the weak link really. Kilman's it at the moment.
Ultimately, it sounds like we want to do something like Kilman, Rafinha, Adams to Cancelo, Maddison, cheap striker, something like that.
Yeah. So we need probably that move sort of needs to be done in 33. So yes, we could roll. We can use whatever we have in 32. Maybe move Doherty to a 33, a doubler. But keep the price low, and then move into 33 with 2 free transfers, and then go for a Cancelo move involving Rafinha and Kilman.
I like that personally. I think bench Trent, play Rafinha. I quite like that. And then 2 free transfers. I think that extra week of information is so critical if you're trying to build for that 33. I quite like it personally. Sam in the chat, by the way, is asking what rank is this team and what's the target?
Oh, sorry. Yes. His rank was just outside the top 200k. And the target is top 100k, because like me, I don't think he's ever finished outside it. That is the minimum target. I want to get this. And I think with a free hit in 36, we can do what we like then. And we've got a great squad until then, and we can bench, and it's set up really well for 33 bench boost. As long as the whole team doesn't get COVID or injured when we want them, I'm really happy with this. Yeah.
So for a very broad strategy, we do roughly what we were speaking about ahead of 33, bench boost, then 36 is a free hit.
Yeah.
So what we should probably be doing ahead of 36 is, of course, minding 34 and 35.
Yes.
But setting up for 37, 38, and really going for those. I mean, whether you think this makes a big difference or not, going for those teams that have something to play for, or have something to play for and a player that will play for it. A Kane, a Salah, for this example.
So Adams and Rafinha have to be downgraded eventually.
Yeah. Lovely stuff. Right. So this is the time of the chat now where we will look at our bus teams very, very quickly and look to see what we're doing this week. And now you can chuck some questions into the chat and we will answer as many as possible, as quickly as possible as well. So Joe and Seb will answer the questions, but they're going to try and do it in kind of 3 words or less, really. And while we're doing that, we will have a look at our bus team. So get them in now, and then we will answer as many as possible. So my bus team, looking at this week, is I've got Ramsdale in goal. I've got Trent, Doherty, Rudiger and Robertson at the back. I've got Saka, Kulusevski, Salah and Martinelli in the middle, with Kane and Mopé up top. I've got Rafinha, Broja, Nori on the bench, with Sanchez on the bench as well. I feel quite strong, to be honest. I've got 2 free transfers. I've got 1.1 million in the bank as well. I'm without Trent being injured, I'm struggling to see what I would do with this team. I could take Trent out and bring in someone like Cancelo. That's probably what I will end up doing, because I don't feel that bad getting rid of Trent. Apart from that, I'm struggling a little bit. I could upgrade Nori to someone like Cher and prepare for game week 33 and then play Cher instead of Alexander-Arnold. I could play Rafinha instead of Trent and just burn a transfer, but I hate burning a transfer. So I'm a bit all over the place. The other thing I thought about doing is getting rid of Sanchez and bringing in Dubravka. So I've got a double game week player for 33. But apart from that, I quite like it. I think Mopé's got to go eventually. But yeah, Seb, you look like you want to say something.
You have 2 free transfers, right?
I do.
So I guess, because one of the things I'd be against removing Trent, if for some people, is you effectively have to use a transfer to bring him back in. Well, if you're going to burn one, maybe you're sort of 50% ahead with that. I can do Trent to Cancelo and then back again if I need to.
Yeah.
And if your other option is like an Nori to 33, that probably works fine. But I wonder if you aren't better just holding that transfer for 2 weeks in case you desperately need it. Harry Kane is injured or something.
Yeah.
Or a better option comes out ahead of 33, something like that. I think that's a move you make on the eve of 33 because you're not going to use that player before then.
No, exactly. And I'll only be using one move this week. I want 22. The only problem is like I don't want to be holding 2 free transfers if I'm going to free hit. Like, because obviously I need to decide now what I'm going to do, because obviously I don't want to be holding 2 free transfers and then have to burn them both because I free hit. So I'm teaching on the way of I'm not going to be free hitting 33. I think I'm fairly well set up anyway, and if I can bring in 1 or 2 extras that I can get in there, taking Rafinha out for Maddison or Barnes, bringing in maybe a Newcastle goalkeeper or defender, I feel like I would be in a pretty good place anyway. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I feel like I'm in a good place anyway. I feel like I can attack that top 10k in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. Next up, we've got Seb. So Seb, can you talk us through your team, what you're thinking about doing, and just talk us through your lineup at the moment?
Sure. So I have Dubravka in goal, who may or may not be out for this week. Trent at the back at the moment, but as we know, he may be injured, so he may be benched or transferred, not sure. Robertson, Tierney and Doherty at the back. Salah captain, Son vice-captain, Saka, Rafinha and Kulusevski. Lacazette up front on his own with a bench of Foster, Dean, Brozier and the suspended Jimenez. So if I have 2 free transfers as well, by the way, and about 1.2 in the bank. So if I did nothing, I guess Luca Dean comes in for Alexander-Arnold because we believe he's fit now. I think he was on the bench for France, I think. But I am maybe looking at taking a bunch of hits even. So 2 free transfers and then maybe a further transfer or 2. Because I mentioned there's a few, if I had no injuries at all, I'd maybe still be looking at, say, moving a Dean on to Cancelo or something. I think I could just afford that maybe, give or take. Or at least, like I say, Jimenez to Weghorst. But with the Bravko and Alexander-Arnold as well, I'm wondering if I do that goalkeeper thing I spoke about, if I do a Trent to Cancelo. I'm honestly not sure, though. As I mentioned earlier, I need to work out my strategy. And it's similar to you, Andy, it maybe is going to depend on 33 or 36 free hit. What do you think with the team going ahead for 33? Like, it's not too different to yours. Is there a 33 team here, or do I need to free hit that?
I think with your 2 free transfers, I think you're in the same boat as me. I think you can get enough 33 players in. You've got Dubravka in there as well.
Yeah.
I think you can get enough 33 players in to be fine because you've got a good team anyway. It excites me when you say you're going to be taking multiple hits because I'm already thinking, well, I don't see why you need to personally. I know you've got Jimenez in there, which is obviously the difference, but I think your main team is absolutely fine with 2 free transfers as well and 1.2 million in the bank. I think you can make do without that.
It feels like one of those, and this is me falling for like a psychological trap that I'll probably tell people not to do all the time. It feels like one of those, well, if I make 2 free transfers, I might as well go get Cancelo and get that Pickford and get Weghorst and I'll go and upgrade someone else as well. And it's like, I've taken hits. I might as well take loads of hits. So I don't know. I think what I'm doing at the moment is I've got all the possible transfers in my head and I'm just in make all of them mode.
Yeah.
I need to work out which ones I actually want to make.
It feels very, very wrong for me, you taking -4 and then maybe another -4 to get Weghorst and Pickford. For me, that is exactly what we shouldn't be doing. Yeah.
I think you just look at weak links, Jimenez and Luca Dean, and if you've got 2 free transfers left, just remove one of them, maybe free up a bit of money for Dean, but it all depends on whether you're going to free hit or not free hit in 33 or 36.
Exactly.
That's the key, really. So if you are going to free hit in 36, I think either way, really, because you haven't got the bench boost to worry about. I think either way, you would look to try and free up some money from Jimenez or Dean, and Jimenez down. To be honest, if you haven't got a bench boost, I would just do Jimenez to Gerhardt.
So what I want is Cancelo and Reece James. I want both those players. I don't have to have them immediately. And you can see how I would build that defense.
Can you swap Jimenez and Luca Dean to Cancelo and Gerhardt just with your 2 free transfers?
Oh, yeah, really easy. I've got like 1.2 in the bank.
We'll just do that.
So I guess the other thing, I think that's a decent shout. The other thing is obviously if Trent is out, Luca Dean is probably coming up on bench at the moment. Brozier's there as well. If I did Jimenez to Weghorst or similar, he then is obviously the option for Trent. And he's then the option for Trent. So I need to think about who replaces Trent in my team, I think, with whatever transfer.
Do you know what I love the idea of? I love the idea of you having 2 free transfers, doing 4 moves for a -8 and still not having Kane.
Yeah.
I love that. I know you've got the 3 Spurs, but I just think you look like Weghorst, Pickford, but Kane is killing it, and he's the one striker
I'm not
we
going to
want
get
to own.
Kane just because
I
don't think it's an efficient use of moves.
I think you want Cancelo,
but I'm aware, yeah.
I think you want Cancelo, and you have no need for one of your strikers. And Gerhardt might turn up the odd game. So I think I would just do that. If I had your team, that's the move I would definitely make, because you're removing 2 problems and bringing in what a player in Cancelo against Burnley.
I mean,
immediate hit there.
Anyway, well, thank you for workshopping that with me. Frankly, I have no idea if you can't tell. So don't do what I do this week.
You've been spending too much time going in and out of Foden. That's your problem. Joe, we have got your best team on the screen now. Talk us through it, mate, and then we are going to get some community questions.
Yeah, I've got Ramsdale in goal, or Dubravka's infectious thingy. I've got Alexander-Arnold, who won't play. I've got Ben Davis, who might not play either. I've got Rudiger, Robertson, Saka, Kulusevski. Salah is my captain, Rafinha in a 4-4-2 with Kane and Adams up front. On my bench, ready to come on, is Brozier, who will be needed for Alexander-Arnold. I've got Ramsey and Kilman and Dubravka. I have 4. I've got 4 free transfers before game week 33. That's what I'm looking at. So I've got 2 free transfers now. I've got 4 free transfers for 33. I've only got 3 problems to remove, which is Kilman, Ramsey, and in 33, Rafinha. So I do have a sort of a spare transfer. So I could have a luxury transfer and hope no one else gets injured. But as you can see, already we've got Dubravka, Ramsdale, Alexander-Arnold as doubts. So that I'm going to need that extra transfer. So for me, the thing that makes perfect sense is to remove Kilman and keep a cheap defender there for a while in Benjamin White. Who is 4.5, and that's fine. I've got 0.8 in the bank. If I don't have any goalkeepers, then I would be tempted to do Ramsdale to Pope. I must admit, he would be the only Burnley or Everton asset I would go for. Just the sheer quantity of matches, the sheer quantity of saves he can make.
Have you considered Weghorst?
No. I tell you, I have seriously considered Dwight McNeil though, and that is serious. And if I had a little bit more money, if I could do Ramsey to him, and I didn't want Cancelo down the line and all those kinds of things, then I would do that. But no, Weghorst, I'm not interested. But and the move I'm not going to make, but other people who, if they own this team, might make, which would be Alexander-Arnold for Cancelo. But that's not me.
Yeah. Sorry, I blanked out as soon as you said McNeil today again. Right, shall we get some questions and then we'll say goodbye to all the 350 lovely people that are in the chat. So Imtiaz Ahmed says, great show, guys. Thank you very much. Would you move Wood for Weghorst or bin Wood to a 4.5 million bench fodder? Strikers are horrible this week. Seb, would you do Wood to Weghorst, or would you go to Gerhardt, basically?
Depends on team, but Weghorst.
Lovely. Joe?
Remove Chris Wood for Moneybags Newcastle for Weghorst? No.
FPL Rank Chaser says, do we sell Trent this week? Yes or no? Joe?
Maverick v Dallard. No.
Oh,
Maverick,
no.
Yes. Do it for Cancelo.
Seb?
Depends on team again, but yes.
Yes. Keith Hill says, will Salah play Watford, having played extra time today and losing, I should say, as well? Joe, what do you think?
It is a risk. I think his minutes will be managed. It's whether he starts or not. But Watford have beaten Liverpool in recent memory. So he's going to want his best players.
Seb?
90% yes.
Yeah. Footballman 10 says, so mine is out. Sarr, Saiss and Jimenez in Pope, Cancelo, Weggy for a -4. Yes or no? So Sarr, Saiss and Jimenez, so literally triple Wolves for Pope, Cancelo and Weghorst for a -4. Yes or no, Seb?
Yes, but can you save the 4?
And Joe?
Yeah, same answer. Remove 3 bad players for 3. Well, 1.
Yeah.
Good one. I think you might better save a -4 there, not do all of that moves.
Joe, John L says, question. Oh no, sorry. This is a question for Seb. Foden, in or out this week?
on the edges, waiting to be let back in the future.
Disgusting.
Shake it all about, perhaps.
Yeah. He's one of the tryhards on the side of the dance floor, isn't he? Nebraska says, should I use TAA injury to squeeze Salah with Son and Kane? So basically, should he downgrade Trent to have Salah, Son, and Kane in his team, Joe?
He will do well of that this week, but he will do badly in future weeks because he's going to want a -4 somewhere. Because I don't think that's going to sort of work out.
Yeah. And Seb?
For that one. If you had like a wobbly, but you probably don't, so no, it sounds like too much.
It sounds like hits down the line somewhere.
Yeah, it's every time I've said about getting rid of Trent, I feel like you need that way back to him, an easy way back to him. Whereas if you're spreading those funds around, you're not going to have enough moves left to make it to get him back, I don't think. I didn't see. There it is. Jack Brockenshire says, "Is Kane to Ronaldo too much of a risk, Joe?"
Yeah. No, I just wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Seb?
Yeah, don't do that.
Sam Seb says, "What is the ideal big at the back for the remainder of the season?"
Phil Foden?
Ooh. And can I have an actual answer, please, Seb? Come on.
Obviously, so Trent's injured, but let's say Trent's back. So Trent, Robbo, Cancelo, Reece James. And I know you've mentioned that maybe another City player. I'd possibly go cheap. So I had a rotation-ish option for like other doubles and things with midfield. So maybe like a Doherty.
Lovely. Joe?
Yeah, yes. I mean, City, Chelsea, Liverpool, they're three best defences, three teams with loads of attacking defenders. It just depends who you want to get. Just get 5 of them somewhere.
Matt Henley wants to know if we could chat a bit more about Burnley so we could sleep peacefully. We could do it in a bit of an ASMR way if you like. Sally says, "Is Dan Burn a better option or Klein from Crystal Palace?" Ooh, Seb. Always quickly having a look.
Desperately checking Crystal Palace's fixture.
What an unusual question.
Joe, go.
No, get Dan Burn. He's got extra motivation playing for his team. If you're going to get a Palace defender, Tyreek Mitchell, don't mess with Klein.
Nice. Seb?
Yeah, I'm with Joe.
Yeah. And last one, Tim Felkin says, Saka or Martinelli moving forward? Joe?
Saka.
Ooh, nice. Lovely. So everybody in the chat, thank you so much for chucking your questions in there. We had some really good ones in there. Loved it. Thank you so much, Seb and Joe, as well, for obviously joining us on the Scoutcast. I think this is probably going to be my last one in control, Joe.
Maybe. You could be in control again. Who knows? I should have the technology in place, but will I have the skills to operate it?
I mean, saying that, I should be telling you whether I'm going to be in control next week, shouldn't I?
Yeah,
so, yeah,
that's right. You should be the domineering one, as Phil Foden once said.
Exactly. So, do make sure you give us a like and make sure you check out the members area in Scout as well, because obviously we get all our information from there. So, thank you very much. I've been Andy.
It's a goodbye from me.
And I'm off to see a man about a blonde haircut.
Yeah. Right. Thank you very much, guys. See you next week.